Welcome back to the Richard Sherman podcast presented by our friends and partners over at Breitling. Always got us shining, always got us right. The Harbaugh Bowl ends with John Harbaugh getting the victory. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry run the ball well the entire game. They kicked the ball well. I mean, Justin Tucker only needed one, but this was a great battle. Looked like the Chargers were in control from the offset, and then slowly but surely, the inevitable Derrick Henry imposes his will on the game and didn't even score a touchdown. But we're about to get into that. Lamar and the Ravens needed this win. And early on, I wasn't 100% sure they would get it. This Chargers defense has been playing really well all season long. We know how well they played on offense. Justin Herbert, this newfound affinity to run the football. I'm sure Greg Roman, who used to be Lamar's coordinator, has his hands all over that. And then you saw him do a celebration where it looks like they're working on ball security. Don't fumble the football. But I said it last week. I'll say it again. Derrick Henry, 24 rushes for 140 yards. I'm not going to say I told you so, but win, right? Win. Lamar Jackson, 16 for 22, 177 yards, 2 TDs, and the 10-yard rushing touchdown where it looked like he did the step back like he did in high school. Win. Didn't have to do a ton through the air, really balanced attack, ran the football, threw the football 22 times, got the dub. The defense did enough to win this game, held Justin Herbert without a passing touchdown. Obviously, he got the 5-yard rushing touchdown. They got sacks from all over the place. Kyle Van Noy, Josh Tupu, O'Day Owe, Brandon Stevens all get a sack in the game. Mark Andrews gets that touchdown pass from Lamar Jackson. It just felt like the Ravens that you know, and being on the road in a very tough environment, not tough from a fan's perspective, but just cross-country flight, time difference, Monday night. It's just a lot going on, coming off a tough loss, a team that's been rolling this season, really well coached, really tough win. And after being down early, when they were down 10-0 and looked like, hey, this defense has answers for the Baltimore Ravens, this Chargers offense moving the ball at will. And then all of a sudden it flips and you see that championship pedigree come out of the Baltimore Ravens. Their defense steps up, gets stops when they need them, and their offense makes plays. Lamar Jackson pushed the ball down the field on the plays that he needed. He used his legs when he needed. They got Justice Hill going for the 51-yard touchdown, which really was a great play in the ball game. This is what they needed. They had to have this win, especially with the Pittsburgh Steelers losing to the Cleveland Browns on Thursday night. It really kind of, not to say it made up for the Baltimore Ravens losing to the Steelers, but it kind of did. It kind of puts them back where they were, and Pittsburgh Steelers have a tough road ahead of them against a lot of their division foes. We'll see how they come out of that, but Baltimore has to feel good after a game like that. They're going to have another really, really tough game coming up against the Philadelphia Eagles, which I can't wait to see next week. The Chargers, they have the Falcons in Atlanta. It's going to be another good game. And the Falcons look to continue to stay in control of that division lead in the NFC South. But that Ravens-Eagles game is going to be incredible, especially coming off the game the Philadelphia Eagles just had versus the L.A. Rams, another L.A. team battling it out, and it was close early on, but the Philadelphia Eagles pulled away and looked like they're in a different class late in this game. Saquon Barkley, 255 yards, 9th most in NFL history. That's incredible. Jalen Hurts, a fishing game, 15 for 22, very similar to Lamar's game. Not a ton of passing yards, but still efficient. Not throwing it over 25, 30 times. Gets the touchdown, 12 rushes for 39 yards. And then Saquon. I mean, this season for the Philadelphia Eagles has just been a revelation for Saquon Barkley and really for the running backs that left their teams that didn't appreciate their talents. Saquon Barkley's having a really incredible all-pro season. I mean, I know people are saying MVP, but we're just not in that time anymore. They're not giving them the running backs. Derrick Henry leaves the Tennessee Titans and makes his impact. First game without a touchdown this week for the Baltimore Ravens, and it just seems like they're really doing what they can to show the NFL and the world that The running backs are back, and you need them. And if you want to win championships in this game, you're going to have a good one. And the Philadelphia Eagles are 9-2, making an incredible case for that. But it's that defense, that Vic Fangio defense, that's really been stepping up and really starting to show all the talent that they had. Nakobe Dean gets a sack. Milton Williams gets 2 sacks in this game. Brandon Graham. Brandon Graham. Such a great player, a great human being. Plays the game the right way. You just hate to see a guy like that go out with a season-ending injury. He announced it himself that he tore his tricep. And I tried to talk to the competition committee about chip blocks and all the D-line. You know, when I was working as vice president or on the executive committee of the NFLPA, you try to talk to the competition committee because they're always saying safety. You know, safety of the game, safety of the game, safety of the game. And, you know, they took all these hits from a defensive player where an offensive player is defenseless. And you say, those have to be out of the game. You know, it's good for the players. It's good for everybody. We got to penalize it. We have to enforce it. We have to fine you, have to do all these other things. But then you see chip blocks from D linemen, and now it's a hush area for owners, for the competition committee, for offensive coordinators, because it's protecting the quarterback. And so you have guys who are engaging in a block. You saying, hey, you can't chop an offensive lineman when they're engaged in a block because it's a chance for him to get hurt. So you can't chop them. You can't chop a defensive player when they're engaged. You can't chop offensive linemen when they're pulling around. DBs can't do that anymore because it's dangerous. But I mean, you can come take a rib shot on a vulnerable defensive lineman who's engaged and looking at somebody else. So running back can come up and say, hey, see you trying to rush the passer. And if you don't give me a move too, I can come devastate your rib cage or tear your tricep, you know, of guys that are engaged in competition with another player. And it's usually not a straight up shot. It's not like, hey, they're looking them in their eyes and they're hitting them. It's usually a shot that they're taking where they're not looking or are not expecting it, or they are expecting it, just can't do anything about it because these are big, powerful, strong men who are doing it. These are very talented, skilled individuals. So I think it's one of those things that has to be looked at by our league as a player safety issue, because what's the difference? What's the difference? Hey, I know you don't want pass rushers like bearing down and killing quarterbacks, but like you got to put some parameters on chip blocks and how they are done and who gets to do them and having them in the line of sight. Like you can chip from inside out. You know, we talked about back blocks and all that, and that kind of fits in the gray area of a crackback when you're going back into the line of scrimmage, where you're going back in, a running back coming out and seeing a D lineman rush and make his move, and then he's coming back into him to chip him. So sorry to go on that rant, but just as a defensive player, you just hate to see that gray area that puts D linemen at risk. And all the competition committee kept saying is, we're not seeing a ton of injuries from it. It's well because they're tough guys. You know, there's bruised ribs every week. There's hip issues. There's UCL tears and strains. But hopefully, you know, if anything positive can come from this Brandon Graham injury, it's that gets addressed and hopefully it gets changed to protect these D linemen, because they deserve it. And that's a very, very difficult, dangerous play that they deal with.
The NFL season is rolling along, and contenders are starting to separate from the pack. The one thing that hasn't changed all season, DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Fade to the corner of the end zone, running back breaks through the line and gallops 60 yards for a score. We don't care how they get them. We just want to bet on touchdowns, and DraftKings is the best place to do it. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Richard. That's code Richard for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
But back to the Rams side, they're now 5-6 in that tight NFC West. Only a game back. Matthew Stafford, 4 for 36, 243, 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams, 16 carries for 72 yards and a rushing touchdown. He got kind of chippy in this game. a little bit, but Puka Nacua continues to shine. Ever since he's been back, he's been really, really impactful and just looked like a really elite receiver, catching and running, very difficult catches, but just wasn't enough this week. 9 catches for 117 yards. Cooper Kupp, 8 catches for 60 yards. It's just tough in this league right now. It's really tough, and you really can't predict, even with this loss, you can't predict what's going to happen in the NFC West. 1 second, the Arizona Cardinals are leading. Then they go to Seattle, or then they play the Seattle Seahawks. They take a very tough loss where it looks like Seattle dominates them, at least from the defensive side of the football, holds them to 6 points on offense. Then you got games where the San Francisco 49ers are struggling, have another difficult game going to Buffalo. The Seahawks play the Jets, which could give them a chance to take even more of a lead in this division if everybody doesn't show up. And the Rams are in New Orleans, a team that is playing with a little harder, playing free, without the pressure of expectations. They fired Dennis Allen already, and it just seems like they, anytime you fire your coach, you come back with a new vigor and a new energy that you didn't have before. And everybody's like, where did this come from? These are the same players. These are the same guys. Now they can just execute. Now they play with a lot more purpose, and it's good to see the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, continue to intercept the ball the way he has. He's just been having a really good season. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the All-Pro team or makes the Pro Bowl, because he's just been having that kind of season, especially taking the football away. I know people see the plays where he didn't make the play or missed a tackle or something and think whatever they think, but some of the plays he's making on the defense that's been really struggling at times in this season have been incredible and been remarkable. And he's playing hard, and I think he's going to get a shot at it. Now, to the rest of the league, in these headlines around the league, they asked Brick in New York for the New York Jets, is Aaron Rodgers going to start? Of course he's going to start. They are not going to sit Aaron Rodgers. And I respect them coming out and saying it, ending the speculation, ending those conversations, because it's not true. It's not going to happen. And I respect Aaron for not folding it up and being a stand-up guy who's not going to just be a front runner. Hey, when things aren't bad, he's still showing up to work and he's still giving his best effort and showing up for his teammates. He's not backing out. Obviously, all the rumors came out about Woody Johnson wanting him benched for Tyrod at some point in the season. Woody comes out. Woody stays quiet for just about everything else, but comes out and really rejects that notion. But now they're saying that they'd be shocked if Woody signs off on Aaron coming back next season. I wonder what their plan would be if he doesn't come back. What are you going to do? Are you drafting a quarterback early? Because there's other holes in this team that need to be addressed as well. You paid him a lot of money. You just extended him. So are you just going to eat that money after the season that he's had? What is Aaron going to do? Is Aaron going to continue to play football? I'm not going to lie. When you aren't able to play at the level that you want to play at, sometimes you don't think it's worth playing. And that's how I felt. My body wasn't holding up like the way I wanted it to. I couldn't move the way I wanted it to. And at that point, you're like, hey, if I can't play up to the standard that I hold myself to, then it's unfair for me to try to put my body and my mind out there just to disappoint myself week in and week out. And I'm sure Aaron holds himself to a very high standard. You don't get 4 MVPs in the National Football League without holding yourself to a really, really high and impossible standard. So I'm sure he'll do some self-reflecting. I don't think you'll hear, or you might hear, a knee-jerk reaction at the end of the season and him saying something like, I'll be back, of course. There's no question about it. I'll owe it to these men, or something like that, because that's the kind of guy he is. But I wouldn't be shocked if this was Aaron's last season, just based off what you're saying. You're saying some of the things even early in the season where he's hitting his back foot, he's falling away, flicking his wrist, and the ball just isn't going where it's used to going. And even when he does hit the receivers in the hands at times, there's been drop issues in very critical parts of the game. So you could see his frustration week in and week out. So I'm sure all that will weigh on him. But I would expect at this age he's at right now, he'll take time to really collect his thoughts and figure out what direction he wants to go. But I wouldn't come back, because you just don't want to keep putting bad things on tape. Not that it's going to affect his legacy. I hate when people say that, oh, it's going to affect his legacy and people are going to look at him different. You got 4 MVPs, unless you're going to take them off the shelf. there's really not a lot you can do. Now, there are people comparing him to Tom. You won't really be able to compare because when just simple, straight up math, these are straight, simple, stupid math where a guy leaves his team, goes to another team, one has success and wins the Super Bowl at 45. The other doesn't. The other doesn't have success and tears his Achilles, and the next year comes back, doesn't play up to the standard that he's held to. And that's what they're going to say, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. One of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the National Football League. That is what it is. Also hearing rumors about Pete Carroll, being looked at as a potential replacement next season. I hope Pete doesn't take that job. Just seeing what he saw, obviously he has history in New York, but just doesn't seem like a place you want to come this late in your career and expect to turn it around with that ownership unless you're promised something, some control and some guarantees that it won't happen to you, which I doubt they can give him. But the Jets are playing the Seahawks coming up. The two teams that I think are going in two different directions. If the defense for the Seattle Seahawks and that D-line can be as ferocious as they were last week, and that secondary can play as fast, especially Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen looks like he's got his groove back. Kobe Bryant with the pick six starting to really show the talent that everybody saw when he came out of Cincinnati and won that Thorpe. Obviously at a different position at safety, but it's really starting to gel for him. Ernest Jones is starting to really blossom, and you see the plays week in, week out, just him, the way he's using his hands and disragging offensive linemen and getting to the plays. I think that's what they saw on tape, and that's what they wanted. Obviously, there were knee issues coming from the Rams that the Titans, I think, were worried about, and that I'm sure the Seahawks have looked into, but I just haven't seen it on the field. I haven't seen any noticeable difference, any noticeable limp or issues, but I'm not a doctor, and if the issues were there, they're going to talk about those when they talk about contracts. But this player has been playing at a high level, and I expect him to get an extension this offseason if he continues to play the way he has. Did you know that feeding your lawn regularly builds a stronger, more resilient lawn that naturally crowds out weeds? Scott's Turf Builder products provide year-round feeding with essential seasonal solutions for your lawn. Scott's has a subscription plan that makes caring for your lawn easier than ever. They put their expertise to work by analyzing the location, size, and condition of your lawn to create a custom plan for your yard. And they'll ship you the right product to apply at the perfect time. By answering only a few short questions about your lawn, Scott's experts will craft a program that's right for you and your yard. Visit scotts.com to learn more. Feed your lawn. Feed it. Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings. Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details. Then you hear things going on with the other New York team, the Giants. Obviously, they released Daniel Jones, which is an understandable move, sitting him with the amount of money. You heard the team, the way they reacted to it. They weren't happy with it. He clearly has a lot of respect in that locker room from the players that have played, especially the veterans, and they took it out of their day to really go out of their way to speak positively about Daniel Jones and how professional he is and how high of a regard they have for him. So that was really cool, but he just hasn't played well enough this year. So you can understand why they sat him and understand why they want to protect the money that they have on him, an injury guarantee. If he gets hurt, they got to play him. They got to pay him next year, and I don't think they want to. I think they're ready to move on from him. They're pretty much making a decision right now that they're going to take a quarterback in the draft coming up. They lost this last game to the Bucs 30-7. Baker Mayfield, just a fun guy to watch play football. But Malik Nabers, clearly frustrated, a guy who's a true competitor. And you see that a lot, especially with young guys who are competing, and he wants to win. And I don't think a coach would have any issue with a guy wanting to win that bad that he's frustrated. He wants the ball. And he's saying, hey, you're not giving me the ball in the first or second quarter, and you want to win these games, and it's not working. It's not working. And obviously, these defenses are going out of their ways because Malik Nabers is their primary weapon to stop Malik Nabers. But I feel it. You got to at least attempt to get him the ball as much as possible. If he's not getting 5 targets a quarter for this team, then you're doing it wrong. Even if you just and you they're clear blueprints of how to move receivers around and get the double teams off them. You watch Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, his LSU brethren. Not that they went together, but they're LSU guys, and you can find ways, creative ways to get a receiver off of a double team if you really want to do it, and you really want to see what Malik Nabers, and you want to highlight him, and you want to make him happy. Now is as good a time as any to install some of those plays, the motions, the stacks, so that he can have fun and he can showcase his ability. He's one of your best players. You want to make him happy. You already got rid of Saquon, and all the videos are coming out about how the front office viewed him and the conversations that were happening behind closed doors, and they all look like idiots right now because what were you doing? Now you gave him to a division rival, and you can hear him on the tape talking about, I don't know how I'm going to sleep if Saquon goes to the Eagles. And now he goes to the Eagles, and he just had his best game of his life, 255 yards. They're 9-2 in your division, looking as good as they've ever have. And the Giants are about to be picking in the top 3 in the draft. So hopefully you notice, hey, keep talented players in-house. Pay him what he deserves, pay him what he wants, and don't make it a discussion. He's put in the time. He's played at a high level. He's a really impactful player. He's about to have an all-pro. He's having an all-pro season right now. It's going to be him and Derrick Henry, depending on which flavor you like more, who you put first team, who you put second team. But I believe those are the 2 backs for the all-pro team. And he deserves it. I'm sure he'll get some MVP votes, and that's good for him playing in an offense with a great offensive line, some really great weapons on the outside at receiver, and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and a quarterback who understands the assignment. And obviously, I'm sure he would like Jalen Hurts not to steal as many of his touchdowns near the goal line. But if he didn't, we'd be talking about Saquon with 15, 16 touchdowns this season. So good for him. I don't think anything is wrong with what happened, what Nabers was talking about. I think he was the right decision, the right receiver to take. And once they get a quarterback and start to shore up more places on this team, he'll be happier. And maybe you need to start to study some of these other teams, other great receivers, and find ways to get him the ball consistently, even when he's doubled, even when coverage is trying to take him away from you. Offensive coordinators, when you're good and talented at your job, you find ways to get it done. Another storyline is Bo Nix is closing in on Jayden Daniels for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, everybody thought that was a closed book, closed case. The way Jayden Daniels was playing, he's coming back to earth. And Bo Nix, over the last 3 games, 71% completion percentage, 795 yards, 6 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Jayden Daniels, 61% completion percentage, 688 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 97 rushing yards, and they're 0-3. The Denver Broncos are 2-1. And really, they're again on 2 different trajectories. Hopefully, this isn't the Cliff Kingsbury scenario that I've been talking about, where second half of the season, people just figure him out, and the offense just does not do numbers. You can look at all the numbers for years and years in Arizona. You can look at him wherever he's gone, even back as far as Texas Tech. Second half of seasons, people have answers. So I think it's time for him to study that and really try to make the necessary adjustments, have a conversation with himself, look at himself in the mirror, and then say, hey, I got to do something different. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result isn't getting it done. Something's got to change. I think, clearly Jayden Daniels, I believe he's going to continue to ascend and figure this out and get back to playing how he was. This is what happens to the National Football League rookie wall, but Bo Nix seems to be figuring out how to bust through the rookie wall. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Sean Payton and what this Denver Broncos team is doing. Hopefully they make the playoffs, because that defense with Patrick Surtain, who's the best corner in football, is going to be fun to watch in the playoffs. Now, the moment that you guys all have been waiting for, clearly, is my power rankings. And every week you think you got to figure it out in terms of ranking these teams. I put Detroit in there. They continue to do what they do. They're going to stay at 1. Again, I don't see a reason to put Kansas City anywhere else. I just, they're a championship team that just figures out a way to win. it seems like they're almost bored at this point. They're just getting through this season and staying close, staying confident, and figuring out ways to win at the end of these games. When Patrick Mahomes got the ball with a little under 2 minutes to go, everybody knew how that game was going to go, and it went exactly as expected. They won it. Great fight by the Carolina Panthers, but Kansas City, I look forward to seeing you this week. You're at 2. At 3, I think the Buffalo Bills continue to be there with everything they've been able to do. With Josh Allen and this team beating the Kansas City Chiefs, I leave you there. They play the San Francisco 49ers this week. I think that's going to be another good game, and it'd be hard for me to take them and put them anywhere else. I got to put the Philadelphia Eagles after Saquon goes for 255 at number 4 in my rankings. And at number 5, it's a tough because I want to put either the Minnesota Vikings or I can make a case for the Packers after what they did to the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, it's tough to find that last team because there's so many teams playing really well, but they're so up and down. The Packers obviously had a dominant win. Minnesota Vikings, not as dominant of a win, but they're 9-2, and they've been playing well. I'll put Green Bay at 5. We'll see how they beat the San Francisco 49ers very convincingly. I saw the game. I saw how well they played on the defensive side of the football, getting stops, putting pressure on the quarterback. A big fan of Jeff Hafley and what he's able to do. Obviously, I don't know what Robert Saleh's doing over there, but they say he's helping on the offensive side. And so that has been really good. Yeah, I feel good about those picks. Thank you guys again for your patience and understanding. I'm on the road. It's 5:03 a.m. in London on Tuesday, November 26th. I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving, a wonderful holiday season. Eat some good food, spend some time with your family, love on each other, enjoy some good football. Hope your team wins, and I hope you guys are on your way to the playoffs. Love and respect. Thank you guys for joining me again. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I sure do appreciate it. Hit that sub button if you're new.